Today we're going to explore two fascinating theories of evolution, Lamarckism and Darwinism. These theories tried to explain how organisms change and evolve over time. Let's start with Lamarckism, proposed by a French biologist named Jean-Baptiste de Lamarck. Lamarckism is based on the idea that an organism can pass on characteristics that it acquired during its lifetime to its offspring. It's named after Jean-Baptiste de Lamarck, who lived from 1744 to 1829. He believed that animals could change and adapt to their environment by choosing to change certain features. He explained this idea with two laws. First, we have the law of use and disuse. According to Lamarck, if an organism used a particular organ or part of its body frequently, that organ would become stronger or better adapted over time. Think of it like lifting weights. If you keep using your muscles, they get stronger. On the other hand, if an organ was not used, it would shrink or disappear entirely. Lamarck gave the example of the giraffe. He believed that giraffes stretched their necks to reach higher leaves, and over time their necks grew longer. Then, these longer-necked giraffes passed on the trait to their offspring. The second part of Lamarck's theory is the law of inheritance of acquired characteristics.
Lamarck believed that these changes made during an organism's lifetime could be passed on to its offspring. So if a giraffe stretched its neck, its baby would be born with a longer neck. In other words, Lamarck thought that animals deliberately changed themselves to fit their environment, and those changes were inherited.
But here's the thing. Lamarck's idea was later rejected by most scientists. Why? Well, biologists discovered that organisms don't evolve just because they want to. Instead, changes happen randomly, and the environment influences whether those changes are helpful or not. Plus, there's very little evidence that traits acquired during an organism's lifetime can be passed down to their offspring. Now let's turn to Darwinism, a theory proposed by Charles Darwin. Darwin lived from 1809 to 1882, and his theory of evolution is still widely accepted today. It's called natural selection. In 1859, Darwin published a book called On the Origin of Species, which explained his theory. Here's what it's based on.
First, Darwin noticed that there is variation, differences, in the appearance and abilities of organisms within the same species. Second, he observed that organisms produce a large number of offspring, but not all of them survive. Third, these offspring compete for limited resources like food and shelter. Fourth, organisms pass favorable traits to their offspring through genetics.
Now let's look at how natural selection works.
Darwin proposed that in nature, organisms with traits that help them survive are more likely to reproduce. For example, if a bird with a certain beak shape is better at getting food, it will survive and have more offspring.
This process is called natural selection. The organisms that survive pass on their beneficial traits to the next generation. Over time, the population will have more individuals with those helpful traits, making them better adapted to their environment. So to sum up, Lamarckism suggested that organisms can deliberately change and pass those changes to their offspring. But Darwinism, which is supported by a lot of evidence, shows that changes happen randomly, and only the organisms best suited to their environment survive and pass on their traits. This process is known as natural selection. Any questions?
So Lamarck was wrong?
Well, Lamarck's idea was an important stepping stone in understanding evolution. While his theory was mostly incorrect, it opened the door to further scientific discoveries, including Darwin's theory.
So giraffes didn't just stretch their necks?
Right. According to Darwin, some giraffes just happen to have longer necks. Those giraffes survived better because they could reach food more easily, and they passed on their longer necks to their offspring. Evolution is a fascinating topic, and it shows how organisms change over time to better fit their environments. But remember, it's not because they want to, it's because the environment naturally selects the best traits. Hit the subscribe and like buttons for more.